So here I am standing where the iconic Thorpe Park ride Slammer once stood. Yo, what is going on guys? My name is TheJackSilkstone and welcome back to yet another video in my little mini series where I'm documenting the deconstruction of Slammer. Of course, if you watched the very first video that I uploaded in this mini series, you will have seen they were just kind of starting to cut apart all of the old ride cars where you used to sit on Slammer, and then I literally saw them kind of cutting the towers themselves and craning them out of the area. Well, it's been about a week since I was last here, and apparently they have made rapid progress. Both of the towers are no longer visible on the Thorpe Park skyline. I should probably mention, by the way, where I am here on Park. I'm currently just on the edge of the island next to the Swarm. I thought I'd start today's video here just to mainly talk about the Thorpe Park skyline, because of course you've got Hyperia right off in the distance, and then you've got Stealth, and if you see just over to this side, you can see Swarm behind me as well. And yeah, those towers that used to make up the ride Slammer were visible on the skyline. I mean, back when Slammer was operating, the ride vehicle itself used to go way higher than those towers were. Like, you used to be over 100 foot up in the air when you rode Slammer. But yeah, those towers are of course now gone. And I believe even the crane has now left the park, which shows just how much progress they've made with Slammer. So yeah, I'm gonna make my way over to the Slammer deconstruction site and I'll show you all of the progress that they've made over there. Let's go. It's literally not that way. So I've now made my way into Thorpe Park itself, and as expected, the crane has now gone. In fact, right where I'm standing is where that enormous crane was parked up so that it could obviously crane out each individual piece of Slammer as they cut it to pieces. So yeah, it's now feeling very empty. This is where the deadbeat queue line actually was located back during Fright Nights. But if I pan the camera around this way, and as you can see, this is obviously where Slammer used to be stood. So a lot of comments in my previous video were asking, why did Slammer actually close? It was obviously a brilliant ride. It had so many great reviews. People seemed to absolutely love it. So I was actually having a really interesting chat with one of the engineers the other day. And he was saying roller coasters and flat rides are like cars. Like, technically, they can just keep going forever and ever, so long as you keep maintaining them and all of that stuff. But he said there is always a point where it gets so expensive to keep maintaining certain things that it doesn't become worth it anymore. And they do, unfortunately, have to give up on it. It was a term. But yeah, I really want to focus a bit more on kind of the engineering side of things in some future videos, because honestly, the conversation that we had was literally hours long and it was so interesting. And it was stuff that I'd love to share with you guys. So yeah, that's something I'm definitely going to be looking at filming at some point this year. But yeah, in terms of Slammer, as I mentioned in the previous video, there were only ever 2 models of this ride made by the company S&S. The other was over in America, and that version actually closed before Slammer. So at one point, Slammer was the only operating version of that ride in the entire world, which was so cool. However, because of the lack of these rides that were ever made, the company S&S that built this thing, at some point, unfortunately, decided they couldn't make parts for it anymore. Another reason outside of the technical world, although Slammer was a really unique ride, because it was so unique, it took ages to actually send a cycle on Slammer. And it's similar on all of the flat rides here at the park, like Samurai and Rush. That is the problem with flat rides. They don't always have the best throughputs, but Slammer in particular didn't have a great throughput just because the ride cycle took a while. It took so long to get up to the top. So yeah, because of that, guests were obviously having to wait in hour-long lines to ride this thing. And yeah, it was this combined with like the engineering side of things that just kind of led the park to ultimately decide to close it, obviously in 2017. And it's just been stood there for the past 8 years. But yeah, I'm now going to take you a little bit closer to the pit itself to show you all of the work and progress that's been made since the last time I was here. So here I am within Slammer's old pit. This is where Slammer has been standing for the past 20 years. How mad is that? Like, this is genuinely quite sad. It's not like the old days of Hyperia construction updates where I'd be standing on ground knowing that something amazing was about to go up. I'm now standing where an iconic piece of Thorpe Park history once was. Yeah, it's really quite mad actually. But obviously literally where I'm stood right now is where the big kind of central tower for Slammer once was. And then a little bit closer to the camera on either end. So this area would have been where the ride cars were, where you would have sat in those seats and then been taken right to the top of the tower. But yeah, now this is all just empty ground, which of course means the construction crew's job is pretty much done. They've just got a few more bits to kind of clear out, and then this will be a blank canvas, which brings me onto my next point, which, as I promised in the last video, today I'm going to be talking about the future of this space. So as you can see next to me, they've actually already started putting in this brand new fence next to the pit that Slammer once stood in. Because now that Slammer has been taken out, it is going to leave a nice little open space in a very, very important central area of Thorpe Park. And there are a number of things that could happen with this space. And I do have to be super clear at this point that this is all just my own speculation. This is nothing official. I'm just gonna go through things that could happen with this area. So the first one is, this is a really nice space for a flat ride. I mean, they've proved it by the fact that this is where they put Slammer originally. And of course, with Hyperia being brand new last year, there's a golden opportunity to theme this to some kind of mythology or very similar to Hyperia. As for what kind of flat ride, like there are countless options that the park could realistically go with. They could go with a little family flat ride. They could go with a very large scale thrill flat ride. Essentially, this is a massive space. So they have got room to play with, and they could put any kind of flat ride that they wanted to put in here. Now the next option is quite similar, but in my opinion, a little bit more exciting than a flat ride, because this area, whilst it's not big enough for a huge, massive thrill coaster, you definitely could fit a roller coaster on the smaller side in this area. We're talking the likes of like Flying Fish or like Scorpion Express or like Octonauts. However, it then gets even more exciting when you start to think about what's around this area. For example, if I bring you just over here, you can see we've got the Walking Dead the Ride building. So if there was a world in which Thorpe Park decide, you know what, it's time for the Walking Dead the Ride to go, as well as Deadbeat, the Fright Nights maze, and also the restaurant just behind it, Bush Bar. I don't actually know what's in there at the moment. That's really bad for me. It's changed its name so many times over the years. But yeah, if you get rid of the Walking Dead the Ride and that restaurant, and of course now that Slammer's gone, you've then got a really, really big area, pretty much right in the middle of the park, where, who knows, you could definitely fit a thrill roller coaster. So yeah, now that Hyperia has been built, we've just had a major investment. I'm not saying it's going to be anytime soon, but this could well be an area that Thorpe Park could be looking at for future major developments. Now, the other options, unfortunately, aren't quite as exciting as a flat ride or a new roller coaster. We'll start off with Fright Nights. Fright Nights is an absolutely enormous event that the park put on every Halloween. It brings in so many guests, and every year Thorpe Park like to invest in either a new maze, a new scare zone. They like to bring new stuff to the park. So who knows, this area could potentially just be flattened, and they could build a permanent building here. They could use it as a space, or they'll put up a marquee or shipping containers every year. But yeah, that is very much a potential that this area could be used for Fright Nights every year. And the final option, which is unfortunately the least interesting, this area could just be flattened and used as a bit of an overflow area. Like, for example, at Fright Nights, they could expand Deadbeat's queue a little bit, because there were points when Deadbeat got really busy and they had to kind of snake the queue around down near Burger King and stuff. Or it could even just be a nice little picnic area. Obviously, with Hyperia being so popular, let's be honest, the plaza for Hyperia isn't the biggest. Like, there's not too much seating over there. So this area could just be a nice little chill out, relaxing area where families can come and eat their lunch and just wait for someone whilst they ride the bigger rides like Hyperia or Colossus. So yeah, it's not exactly a super exciting new development, but yeah, for the short term, I think this is definitely the most likely option. But then after that, we can then of course start looking at the other three options, of course, the flat ride, the roller coaster, and a bit more of a permanent Fright Nights attraction. So yeah, let me know what you would like to see come to this area of Thorpe Park down in the comments below. I'll be reading through those and replying to you guys. My Hyperia poster collection is still available, so feel free to go and get one of those, link in the description. And yeah, as for this like mini series, I'm not sure if there'll be another video, if there is any kind of continued work. Like I genuinely don't know what their plans are for like the queue line and the rest of this pit. Like if there is an opportunity to film another one of these videos, then I absolutely will. So be sure to subscribe just in case there is. But if nothing much more goes on, if they just kind of finish this fence, then yeah, this will be the end of the series. So you'll have to wait and see. But yeah, otherwise I've got loads more Thorpe Park, another theme park content coming to the channel very soon. So yeah, be sure to keep an eye out for all of that. And otherwise, as I said, thank you so much for watching this video. My name is TheJackSilkstone. Goodbye. Shit.